Less than 2 weeks after Israel's Six-Day War, 2,000 people gather in the amphitheater of the Hebrew University on Mount Scopus. They include faculty members, students, and members of the university's Board of Governors, many of whom have come from abroad. They are assembled to witness the award of honorary doctorate degrees, the highest awards which the university can bestow to a number of distinguished personalities by the president of the Hebrew University, Mr. Eliyahu Eilat.
אחד העם, ביאליק, דוקטור ויצמן, סוקולוב, אוסישקין, ברל כצנלסון, הנציב העליון הראשון סר הרברט סמואל, ואורחים חשובים מחוץ לארץ, ביניהם הלורד בלפור.
First to receive his honorary degree is the President of Israel, Zalman Shazar.
נשיא המדינה, זלמן שזר. מר לואיס בויאר ופרופסור אריה דוסטרובסקי, נגיד בנק ישראל מר דוד הורוביץ, דוקטור הלנה קגן, פרופסור משה צבי סגל, חבר כנסת מר פנחס רוזן, הרב אלוף יצחק רבין. וכעת יש לי הכבוד להזמין את דוקטור יצחק רבין לשאת את דברו.
כבוד נשיא המדינה, ראש הממשלה, שרי הממשלה, נשיא האוניברסיטה העברית,
Israel's Army Chief of Staff, General Yitzhak Rabin, now Dr. Rabin, delivers the main address of the convocation, in which he says that he regards himself as a representative of the entire Israel Defense Forces, of its thousands of officers and tens of thousands of soldiers who brought the state of Israel its victory in the Six-Day War. The presence of General Rabin and the outcome of Israel's latest fight for survival has a special significance to those seated in the amphitheater. Many of them have never seen the magnificent view of the wilderness of Judea and the Dead Sea from this vantage point. For some, this is the first time they have returned to Mount Scopus in 19 years. For Hebrew University President Eilat and a handful of others, this day recalls another ceremony which took place here 42 years ago, when the Hebrew University of Jerusalem was dedicated in April of 1925. On that day, there sat on this same platform here in the amphitheater some of the greatest names in contemporary Jewish history: Chaim Weizmann, General Allenby, Sir Herbert Samuel, Chief Rabbis Cook and Meir, Chaim Nachman Bialik, Lord Balfour, Judah Magnus. It was an historic event, for it symbolized the physical embodiment of Israel's national renaissance, and heralded a day more than 2 decades in the future when Israel's political independence would be re-established. But no one seated on that platform on that long-ago day could have foreseen that the War of Independence, which brought statehood to Israel, would cut off the Hebrew University from the newborn state. The valor of the defenders of Mount Scopus prevented the hill from falling into enemy hands, but it became an island in Arab-held territory. Twice a month, under United Nations supervision, a convoy of armored buses and trucks gathered at Mendelbaum Gate. The convoy carried relief and supplies for the 120 policemen who guarded the university buildings on Mount Scopus. intense journey through the hostile streets led through the Sheikh Jarrah quarter to the British military cemetery on the slopes of Mount Scopus, which marked the uneasy border of the Israeli-held enclave. For 19 long years, the Mount Scopus Guard Unit stood watch over the deserted buildings. Completely surrounded by fortified Arab positions, the garrison maintained a constant alert against surprise attacks and depredations. Water, food, medical supplies, and fuel could only arrive twice a month with the convoy. During their tour of duty on Mount Scopus, the police guards maintained their vigil. But the 19 years of disuse ravaged the buildings which had formerly housed a university whose mission, as envisioned by its founders nearly half a century ago, was to turn outward, to face, to serve, and to unite East and West, Orient and Occident, in the understanding and brotherhood of peaceful scholarship for the benefit of all mankind. The Institute of Jewish Studies and the School of Oriental Studies. The Jewish National and University Library, 500,000 volumes. The rooftop office of the university's first president, Dr. Judah Magnus. The gymnasium and students' clinic. The Museum of Jewish Antiquities and the University Clubhouse. The Hebrew University Medical School for postgraduate study and research. The Albert Einstein Institute of Mathematics. Weizmann School of Chemistry. Frozen in time. The unfinished buildings for zoology, biology, organic and inorganic chemistry, and for physical chemistry. Faced with the sudden loss of its buildings, equipment, and libraries, the university took shelter in temporary, inadequate buildings scattered throughout Jerusalem, and then set about building a new campus at Givat Ram. Gradually, over the years, most of the facilities and departments moved to their new quarters. And for the next 19 years, the Hebrew University began a period of dynamic growth along with the developing nation of Israel. But Mount Scopus was never forgotten. Hope was never abandoned. So that after the victory of the Six-Day War, the day finally came when one last ceremonial convoy of the old armored buses wended its way along the now open road to Mount Scopus, and the campus and its buildings were handed back to the Hebrew University by the Israel Defense Forces. Students and teachers of the Hebrew University took part in the fighting which resulted in the liberation of the Jerusalem area and brought the siege of Mount Scopus to an end. Many of the young men who had guarded the hill during the 19 long and lonely years, and who had stood fast against the last bombardment by the Jordan Arab Legion, witnessed with pride the ceremonial return by their officers and commanders to President Eilat of what had by now become a symbol of Israel's determination and courage. And along with the campus was handed over a challenge. The challenge of rebuilding and repairing the damages of war and the ravages of 19 years of neglect. First to respond to the challenge were the university students themselves, along with hundreds of young volunteers from overseas. They pitched into the physical task of cleaning and clearing the buildings, roads and paths, while not far from them still echoed the explosions of landmines which the army was clearing from the Mount Scopus area. The sorting and disposal of chemicals presents a special problem, since many of them have become dangerous to handle after their long period of shelf storage. Tons of paper debris, now without value, are being carted off for destruction. With many of the university's facilities still housed in temporary, inadequate buildings all over Jerusalem, and with its expanding student and postgraduate population, the return to Mount Scopus will enable the Hebrew University to help solve the problem of the already overcrowded Givat Ram campus. It will allow the university to receive greater numbers of students from Israel and from abroad, including the many additional Arab students who are already applying for admission. Since the days of the university's beginnings on Mount Scopus, the population of the university has grown from 1,000 in 1948 to over 13,000 students today. First, the new university buildings to be constructed on Mount Scopus will be a number of students' hostels. The Martin Buber Center for Adult Education and Special Preparatory Courses. And the Harry S. Truman Center for the Advancement of Peace. The rebuilding and development of the Mount Scopus campus in the east of Jerusalem and its union with the Givat Ram campus in the west of the city will allow the Hebrew University to pursue its mission as a center of spiritual and intellectual development for Israel and for all of the Middle East, and for the Jewish communities all over the world.